I am planning on carrying on with these Let's Talk episodes, so let's jump into another one.
All right, troops.
Before we start, though, this episode as a tribute to a friend of mine, Mr. John Kerr, who sadly passed away after a battle with Parkinson's disease. Mr. Kerr and I used to sing in the interpub karaoke competitions. First time I was singing against him in the Eagle Inn, and then afterwards singing alongside him as part of the Eagle Inn's team. John was a true gentleman, someone that I had a lot of time for and really appreciated his company. I know I just called him John there, but a lot of people used to ask me why I wouldn't specifically address him as John. I would just call him Mr. Kerr. The reason being is that I have a lot of respect for the generations that came before me. They went through hardships that I've been very fortunate not to go through in my lifetime. So I feel like if I get a chance to make friends with someone that's of an older generation, it kind of feels wrong for me to call them by their first name. Kind of like when you run into your teacher when you've grown up and left high school and you still feel that you can't address them by their first name, even though you should. I thought of Mr. Kerr with that same respect. I hope he understood that that's what it was. I know you loved a good whiskey, Mr. Kerr. Sadly, I don't drink. I just have a cup of coffee in a Rat Pack mug. Here's to you, Mr. John Kerr. We'll miss you. And since it is a sad day with Mr. Kerr passing away, probably a good idea to talk about post-show blues. So what is the post-show blues? Well, again, according to the fountain of knowledge that is Google, post-show blues often hit people like performers, directors, and anyone else who works in the entertainment industry because they put a lot of time and effort into a project and experience a high during the show's run, and then it's all over and that high is gone. They experience these issues down to the fact of not being used to having free time, your creative outlet suddenly disappearing, missing the friends that you've made while working in the industry. Post-show blues or post-show depression is 100% real. You spend so much time and energy on a production in 1 minute, and in the next, you're twiddling your thumbs trying to think about what else you can do next. I used to experience post-show blues even in amateur dramatics. You wouldn't know when the theatre group was going to meet up next, what production you were going to do, if the same people were going to come back, if the people that you didn't like were going to come back, it would make it even harder for you to perform. So I think it was the uncertainty that would really get to me, the not knowing. I'm very much a guy that likes to, plan out his day and plan out his time. It's weird. I call it structured uncertainty. You could be told, right, you are needed for filming on Friday between 9 and 3, but you have absolutely no idea what you're going to be filming. That's the type of structured uncertainty that I like. You could be going to your work, you're going to your work, but you're going to be doing something totally nuts so you don't even realize it yet. Don't get me wrong, like in the amateur sides, when I was there, we had a performance in January and a performance in September. So I always knew January and September would be the dates I would be performing, but the time in between was murder. You just didn't know what to do with yourself. In my case, I would go to my 9 to 5 job at the time, and when I was doing a performance, I'd be like, oh, it's Wednesday night. I can't wait to go and do some rehearsing and do something that I'm good at. When you were on your break, all you were stuck with was the day job, and you didn't have that creative outlet knowing that you're good at something. And that could hit quite hard. If you think it's hard for an amateur, imagine what it's like if you work in a professional background. You spend so much time doing like a theatre production or a TV series, a movie, and once it's done, as well as the not knowing about the next project, you're also wondering where your next paycheck's coming from. How are you going to support your family? How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to keep a roof over your head? How are you going to eat? And it's something that, sadly, in recent times is getting harder and harder to predict. This is why I wanted the 9 to 5 mindset in performance context. You want to know that you're going in, you're doing your job, and you'll do it well, and then head away and know that you're getting a payment at the end of the month or the end of the week. But because of the uncertainty around the industry, you never know if that's going to happen. And that can really cause havoc in your mental health. Some of the ways, apparently, that you can get over post-show depression is rest. Anytime that I would do a run, I would always be hit with a bout of exhaustion. I would need at least 2 days to recover from that. And it was resting and conserving energy, knowing that I was doing the right things to keep me ticking over after a long show, because you'd be working a day job, you'd be doing a 9 to 5, back home, get changed, back out for a call time of 6 to start getting ready and get into your costume, get your makeup and all that stuff done. Doors open at 7 for the audience to come in. Show would start at 7:30. Most of the time it'd be finished after 10. You're back home around 10:30. Your adrenaline's still pumping, so you wouldn't fall asleep to about 11, 11:30. And repeat cycle in the case of a pantomime for, in the amateur scene, a week and a half. It could be very strenuous. It would be very long days, long nights. Keep in touch. Apparently, the show ending doesn't mean that, the friendships that you've made have to end as well. You can invite them to hang out, go out for a drink, go out for a coffee. That's much easier when it's the amateur scene, because most of the time you have a rough idea of who is coming back and you've made friends with the people in that wee group that you like. In my case, I'm still good friends with a guy who used to do the tech for our theatre productions and a couple of the cast that I really liked spending time with. And we would, again, ironically, go to the Eagle Inn for a couple of drinks, talk about what we'd been up to, maybe sing a bit of karaoke and discuss when we were all coming back. One of the things that you always had to be careful with was not just using that as a stopgap, like to fill the void that was missing from performing. There's a fine line between like arranging to go out with your friends maybe once a fortnight or trying to see them every day or every week at a specific time like you did when you were doing theatre, because you're just trying to put a stopgap in until everything starts up again. You don't want your friends to feel used. Catching up on other parts of your life, spending time with a family that you never really got to see during the show's runs, or any other close friends that aren't exactly part of your theatrical circle. Now, there would be a lot of times where I wouldn't see my family because I was so busy. The only time I would see them is the whites of their eyes when I was on the stage. And when you get off the stage, you're so tired that if they were saying, well done, or you did great, you were acknowledging it and you were really grateful, but you were just so tired that you just wanted to get home and get to sleep. So getting to see them and remind them that they are precious loved ones and not just people to buy a ticket for a show can really go a long way. It's also why I feel that performers don't often have the longest lasting of relationships, because when it gets to showtime, the other half can feel like you're just putting them to the back burner and it's all about you and the performance. But what they don't realize is that after that time in the performance, it stops and you can spend as much time with them as you want. Another way to get over post-show blues is to have another creative outlet, essentially jumping from one project straight into another. That's usually the best way I found to get over post-show blues. We're always looking for our next project. We're always looking for our next fix, essentially. Performing as a drug, because you get high on the adrenaline and the adulation and the praise. Like, it's addictive. And when you're all of a sudden deprived of that and you feel like you're just back to being normal you, it is a withdrawal. So having something else to do creatively, really crucial for your mental health. The amount of times that people would say to me, you've just finished this project and now you're writing a script, you're going to start a show, or you're going to do this, you're going to do that, but you need a break. That was my break. That also ties in with planning your next project. I don't know why they have a creative outlet and plan your next project in together. I don't know if it's a case of, the creative outlet is, if you have any other outside hobbies, they just start doing them, painting or going to football, or I was rubbish at sports, so that obviously didn't apply to me. The creative outlet for me would be planning my next project. One thing that's really crucial is to avoid a burnout cycle. As I said, jumping into another project is good. It's a way to keep everything ticking over. What's not good is jumping straight into, say, like another show that's due to go on stage again in like a month's time, because you've not fully recovered from the burnout. By all means, like do some creative writing, look at some producing techniques or directing techniques, do something that doesn't actually physically involve you either going on a stage or performing in front of a camera. because you need time to get over the post-show blues and the burnout before you can jump back into a new project. If you jump straight back in, you're going to carry that burnout with you, and you're not going to feel the enjoyment or the passion that you feel when you did the previous project. You always have to remember that it's not just about the one show. It's about being able to continue to do what you love on a long-term basis. So if I could say anything about post-show blues, everybody deals with it in a different way, but you have to be careful. A technique that might work for you might not work for someone else. And always remember that your first technique to cope with post-show blues probably won't be the right one. It took me a long time to get used to the kind of process of my own burnout and how I would be able to recover from it. But once you find the thing that works for you, stick with it. Thank you all again for watching these videos. Until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye bye.